We've got a lot to get into. On the last CBA, the league actually came back to us last night at like 10 p.m. Nothing happened with the revenue share. And that is the whole thing what we're fighting for. They go and they change our salary cap, but only like half a percentage. Like they give us like 50 to 100,000 more dollars, which is like
for individual players, or that's for teams.
So it's like, oh, well, you're getting more money there. But it's like, no,
salary cap doesn't necessarily mean it will even affect you directly.
No, someone else could get
right. That fully has nothing to do with you as like a player.
No, and it makes literally no sense. And so they keep coming.
The clip you just heard was Sophie Cunningham speaking on her Show Me Something podcast, explaining how players are approaching the entire CBA negotiation. The main issue they keep bringing up is revenue sharing. According to her, that's the one demand the players refuse to back down from. She also claims the league won't seriously engage with that topic. Instead, the league keeps adjusting smaller financial details, moving percentages around and adding money in other places, while avoiding the one issue players say matters most. What makes this conversation interesting is that Sophie Cunningham isn't someone like Natasha Cloud or Dejoni Carrington when it comes to public commentary. She's built a real brand and business presence outside of basketball. She understands marketing, sponsorships, and how revenue works in the real world. So when someone with that level of business awareness starts echoing the same arguments we've heard from some of the more outspoken players, it raises a bigger question about what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Happening here.
And changing literally like half percentages of things we're not even asking.
Do you think it's like a smokescreen to be like, hey, we're giving you this, meanwhile we're like not actually changing stuff that matters?
Yeah, I think like they won't even talk about revenue share, but that is our whole fight, is revenue share. If you're the league and I'm the player and you buy my jersey in the NBA, if you're paying $100, the league gets $50, I get $50.
Okay.
Right now in the W, it's like the league gets $97, $98 and I get $2.
So when I bought your fucking jersey that all went to Kathy?
And that's what I'm saying. They want 10 plus more games outside of playoffs, and like then you got to pour into your product even more. But I'm telling you, they are trying to throw money at anything and everything and change half percentages, saying they moved and saying that they're listening to us. Yet our biggest thing that they haven't even touched on is revenue share whatsoever. And it's like revenue share is like the main thing that we need you to touch on, and you're not doing it.
Look at the comparison she's making. She explains it like this: in the NBA, if a fan buys a $100 jersey, the revenue is essentially split between the league and the players, roughly 50-50. In other words, about $50 goes to the league and about $50 goes to the players through the collective bargaining structure. Then she compares that to the WNBA according to the way she framed it. Out of a $100 jersey sale, the league keeps around $97, while the players receive only a couple of dollars. When you hear it phrased that way, it sounds incredibly uneven. On the surface, it almost feels impossible to justify. But that comparison leaves out a major piece of context. The NBA has been profitable for a long time, year after year. The WNBA, on the other hand, reportedly operated at a loss for most of its existence, nearly 3 decades. Only recently has there been talk that the league may have finally reached profitability, possibly this season. Even then, there hasn't been full public confirmation yet. We do know that a revenue-related bonus was triggered, which suggests the numbers improved significantly, but the complete financial reports still haven't been released. There was also a moment before the NBA season started when Adam Silver appeared on the Today Show. During that interview, the host suggested the WNBA was moving toward revenue sharing. Silver quickly pushed back on that phrasing and said he wouldn't describe it that way. He shut down the idea immediately, likely because revenue sharing only really works when there's consistent profit to divide in the first place.
And it's amazing. Look, if you think you deserve this higher revenue share, come back to the table in 3 years. After the league has had a chance to absolutely know this league is going to turn a profit. But you have not done that. Man. So this was my comments after watching that video. You guys know I'm a huge Sophie fan, but I'm shocked she has been so delusional about the worth of this league.
This is where Sophie's argument starts to run into problems. She says the league keeps focusing on changes that don't really matter to star players. One example she mentioned was the salary cap going up by about $50,000 to $100,000 per team, not per player, per team. Her response to that increase was basically that it doesn't directly affect someone at her level. As a top player, And that reaction highlights the core tension in these negotiations. From Sophie's perspective, the focus is on what benefits individual players like herself. But from the league's perspective, the focus is on building something financially stable. The WNBA has relied heavily on support from the NBA for years, so every long-term financial decision carries risk. That salary cap increase she brushed off is actually one way. The league can move more money toward players without committing to a full revenue-sharing system. That could become dangerous if revenue drops later. Because another uncomfortable reality is this: the massive jump in attention this season is tied very closely to one player, Caitlin Clark. Games featuring Clark often pull in around 1 million viewers or more. Games without her usually fall much closer to the numbers the league has historically seen. So it raises a question people inside the league have to consider. What happens if she gets injured? What happens years from now when she retires? If the viewership falls back to previous levels, would a permanent 50-50th revenue split still make sense?
Mind. This summer has the NWSL, MLS, MLB, the World Cup, tennis, golf. And when does that new pro softball league start? The WNBA will be forgotten if they skip 2026. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I just cannot believe that this is her comments on this particular situation. I'm going to be honest, I would have thought she was one of the 20 players that would not have voted no when they did the survey the other day.
According to Sophie, the players have already made their position clear. The union surveyed its members, and the results were overwhelmingly against the league's current offer. She says players want revenue sharing addressed directly, and that some of them are willing to sit out the 2026 season if it doesn't happen. The way she describes it makes it sound like the league is negotiating around the real issue, rather than dealing with it head-on. But another way to interpret the situation is much simpler. The league may be avoiding revenue sharing because the numbers still don't support it yet. Not that it might not work, but that it genuinely doesn't make financial sense at this moment. Committing to a permanent split of revenue is a major decision, especially for a league that may have only recently had its first profitable season. And what makes Sophie's stance surprising is that she clearly understands business fundamentals. If she were running a company and someone asked for half of the company's gross revenue, regardless of profit stability, most business owners would immediately push back on that idea. Yet when the conversation shifts to player salaries, that same cautious financial thinking seems to disappear.
There was a snippet in there about the majority of fans are behind the players, and I'm like, really? Because I swear to God, 8 out of 10 comments are telling these players, you better take this deal. I don't give a rat's ass. These players are on an island on this. They are. And they don't look brave, stunning, and courageous by continuously turning these deals down. Well, they better address the revenue share. That's what we care about. They haven't addressed it yet. What makes you think they ever will?
Now imagine the players actually follow through on their threat. Imagine they strike and skip the 2026 season entirely. If you look at fan reactions online, many of the responses are surprisingly harsh. And a lot of them aren't coming from critics of the league. They're coming from people who already watch the WNBA. A common theme in those comments is simple: take the deal that's available and keep the momentum going. Many fans believe blowing up the season over this issue could backfire badly. One reason people say that is because the league might still operate, even if a large number of players sit out. Replacement players could be signed. Rookie contracts are cheap. International players might jump at the chance for exposure in the US. And the ratings data suggests something else that's difficult to ignore. A lot of viewers are tuning in primarily for certain stars. If Caitlin Clark is playing, millions of people will watch regardless of who the opposing roster is.
Look, not saying that you yourself, your brand, is not worth more. It probably is, versus every other player in the league outside of maybe 4. But that's the problem too, isn't it? I'm sorry, you can run replacement players out there along with the The players on rookie contract.
Sophie also talked about the league wanting to add more regular season games, roughly 10 or more beyond the current schedule. Her argument was that expanding the season means players would have to invest even more energy into the product. But from the league's perspective, expanding the schedule is a way to create more content. More games mean more inventory for television and streaming partners. More inventory means more potential revenue, which eventually leads to higher salaries. In most professional leagues, the number of games is far higher. NFL players go through a 17-game regular season plus playoffs. NBA teams play 82 games before the postseason. Baseball teams play 162. So when the WNBA discusses increasing its schedule beyond around 40 games, it's part of a broader strategy to grow the league's overall financial pie.
It doesn't have to be crusty 7-year veteran. Nah, we're good. We're good. Sorry, guys. I had to call her out. There's no way. I mean, it's just, I'm like, what? Come on. Come on, you're smarter than this. You are all on a united front, sort of. And you all collectively look dumb. As a group. Sorry. Is what it is. Tell me what you think. I'll probably get some mad people that will unsubscribe.
What makes this entire debate complicated is that Sophie Cunningham probably is underpaid relative to the attention her personal brand brings in. The same argument could apply to players like Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, and a handful of other high-profile names. Individually, those players generate media attention, sponsorship opportunities, and fan interest that likely exceeds their current salaries. But the union negotiates on behalf of every player, including those who don't significantly increase viewership or revenue. That's where the league's long-term concerns come in. League executives are thinking about sustainability. They're looking years ahead and asking what happens if the current surge in attention fades. What happens if the ratings return to historical levels? What happens when the current stars eventually leave the game? Their goal is to build a financial model that survives long after today's headlines. The players, on the other hand, are looking at the present moment. They see the ratings growth, the increased visibility, and the cultural momentum around the league. And they feel they deserve a larger share immediately. Those two perspectives operate on completely different timelines, which is why these negotiations keep stalling. From the players' point of view, refusing to discuss revenue sharing feels unfair. From the league's point of view, committing to it right now could be reckless, locking into a 50-50 split when revenue could drop sharply if a major star is injured, or interest cools down would be a huge financial gamble. That's why some people are surprised hearing Sophie make these arguments. She's proven she understands branding and business risk in other areas of her career. Yet in this situation, she's standing alongside other players pushing hard for a structure that may not be financially stable yet. Meanwhile, the league says it is already trying to move more money toward players by raising the salary cap, expanding the schedule, and increasing compensation in other ways. But the union's message remains the same: without revenue sharing, those changes aren't enough. And that leads to the real question hanging over this entire situation. If the players truly hold the line and risk losing the 2026 season, will that strengthen their position in the long run? Or could it end up slowing the league's growth right when interest is finally rising? That's the debate fans, players, and executives are all trying to figure out right now.